Hi YouTube, hi Mocha Moms. Today I'm doing a video on the tools of the trade and learning what to buy, how to experiment, what you're looking for with regards to detangling. There's a lot of information out there. People are very passionate about what they do and what they don't do with regards to detangling. But how do you figure out what to try for your daughter to get the results that you're looking for? And I think the key thing to keep in mind is you're looking for the tool that's going to get you the results that works in your specific individual situation. And the only way you can do that is to go out and try different things. But I've learned that it's not necessarily the things that you spend the most money on that works, but just keeping in mind the anatomy of the hair and what you're trying to achieve will help you to pick whatever will work for you. You may hear my kids talking in the background. You may hear the baby babbling. You may hear somebody cry. I'm not editing that out because I'm really not looking to give you the impression that my life is simple or easy and, you know, I've got lots of time and it's so easy to figure all of this out. I want you to know that I've got 5 children. They're noisy, they're loud, they fight, and there's a wealth of information out there. And in my limited amount of time, I've been able to find things that work for me. So my message to you is if it works for me, it can work for you. Right now, if your daughter's hair is falling out and you're discouraged, you just can't seem to get it together with styling, everything you've tried hasn't worked, you're spending all this money, you don't like the results you're getting, you can figure it all out. If I can do it, you can do it. So let's get started. One good example of a tool that people love is the Denman brush. And I'm guilty of this. When you see me do my videos, you'll see me talk about the Denman brush. I love the Denman brush. It works really well for me. But if you've read my blog, you'll know that my daughters, I have 4 daughters, they have different textures of hair. And the same things don't work with each daughter. My oldest daughter and my 4-year-old, their hair loves the Denman brush. But then I had to shop around for my 7-year-old. And I was on Naturality and people were going on and on and on and on and on about this brush, this Goody brush, the Jojoba Infused Goody brush. And because their texture reminded me somewhat of what I'm dealing with my daughter, I went out and bought it. And her hair loves this brush over the Denman brush. I might have spent a little over 10 for this. And I don't know, I can't remember, but it was much less at Walmart for this. So that's just an example to show you that it's the quality of your tool doesn't always have a lot to do with the price. And in fact, after having that experience, I said to myself, well, I'm going to try different types of paddle brushes and see what I get. And I found this brush also at Sally's, much cheaper. Can't remember how much I spent. But the reason why I went out and got this brush is because look how wide this brush is in comparison to this brush. And there are times when I'm detangling a small section of hair and this is cumbersome and this is a lot more helpful. And another thing I noticed with these paddle brushes is that the spacing of the teeth differ. Just like the spacing of the teeth differ in a comb. And so you have to keep that in mind when you're detangling, and with the level of tangles you're dealing with, you need to see whether or not you need to be using something with widely spaced teeth, because don't forget the anatomy of the hair. You're dealing with hair that's spiraling. Some of the hair spirals. Some people are dealing with hair with the zigzag. Some people's hair doesn't have, you know, a consistent pattern. It might spiral a little, then you have a bent or, you know, a weird, you know, hair bent at weird angles, or, you know, look even more boxy than zigzaggy, very inconsistent. Or you might have straight sections and then zigzag. So my point is that there's a lot of variation with regards to what the hair strands will look like, but the bottom line is that because it's not a straight and a smooth strand next to a straight and a smooth strand, there's going to be some intertwining, there's going to be some knotting or catching. So when you're using a tool like this, you want to make sure that the teeth are spaced wide apart so that you're not ripping the hair out of your head. Now personally, I go from finger detangling because I think these are the most effective tools and they're free. God willing, if you have both of your hands. But I smooth down, use my fingers to smooth the shed hair out, because we know we shed 50 to 100 hairs a day, and the shed hairs, they slide down the hair shaft and catch onto other hairs and cause knotting. And for me, the most important thing I'm trying to do when I'm detangling is I'm trying to remove as much of the shed hair as possible. So I go through and do it with my fingers first, and then I follow through with a Denman. I've seen people do different things. If you notice with combs, the spacing of the teeth in combs can be different. Now, I've read some people are anti-comb. Don't marry your tools, meaning don't decide I'm a Denman user forever and I'll never use anything else, because to be honest with you, I'm looking to get a result. I'm not so much married to the tool that I'm using. So if a comb will get me the result that I want, I will use a comb. But anyway, the teeth are spaced differently. So the small tooth comb, keeping in mind the same thing we just talked about with the strands, depending on how tangled your hair is, you might make a different choice. And we all know the rat tail comb that they use at the hairdresser. This would be foolish to start with if the hair is really tangled. Look how close the teeth are. You're gonna rip the hair out. But I know that there's a method where you start with a wider tooth comb, then you move on to the medium tooth comb, and then you move on to a small tooth comb, and then you do the ultra fine tooth comb to get the perfectly smooth detangle. The comb is slipping through. But honestly, my daughter's hair is extremely tightly coiled, and any type of comb slipping through is very temporary, so I don't even look for that. Unless their hair is completely stretched out, a comb is not slipping through. And I usually don't have time to stretch their hair out completely and then do a second styling session on top of that. So in general, I'll style their hair as much from it being wet as possible. So that's another example of choosing a method based on your life, your circumstance, what you have time for, what realistically you can do. Whether or not something that is being promoted is healthy or not is one thing, but consistency is what yields you results. And if you know that you have the type of lifestyle that you just don't have time to implement the method, then maybe that method isn't for you. Alright, so stay tuned. I'm going to do another video with regards to more tools and helping the detangling process to be easier for you. Hope that helped.